Fellas, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. Thank you so much for joining me today. A couple of quick favors before we start. Go ahead and hit the like on this video when you're done, and make sure you've subscribed to my channel so we can do it again. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, and if you're a dog lover, go ahead and buy my latest book, which is called The Art of Training Your Dog. It's available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, everywhere. I'll put the Amazon link in the description. Guys, before we move on, are you ready for the quick fist watch check? It's easy. You just sit there. I do all the work for you. Ready? Here we go. And today, fellas, I am wearing the watch in question from Glasshute. Now, I'm going to chit-chat with you a little bit now. Then we're going to turn the camera around and get a look at this in the sun, because I'm under an umbrella right now, and this light does this watch no justice. Well, guys, now you're getting the idea. Look at this. Everywhere you move it, it changes. The blue really comes out on the bezel in the sunlight, and the dial just pops alive. Absolutely gorgeous in the sun. Well, we are going to take a much closer look at this Glasshute Original from the Glasshute region of Germany. A fantastic watch. In fact, in many respects, I would say spectacular. There are only two areas that I have objections to this watch. 2.5, call it 3. But that's like out of 20 or 30 points. So all in all, the word that I would use to describe this CQ Panorama Date would be spectacular, because that's what it is. Now, first, where did I get it? I got it from my buddy Nick over at exquisitetimepieces.com. Nick sells 50 different brands of watches as an AD, and even Rolex on the used market. So link in the description for those guys, as well as Nick's cell phone number and stuff. I'm sure he'd be happy to help you out. Nick, thank you for hooking me up with this gorgeous watch. Fellas, the overall owner experience of the CQ Panorama, I will discuss that with you towards the end of this video, as well as putting in a loom shot. But for the moment, let's turn this camera around and take a closer look at this and discuss some of the specs. Right now, it looks fairly muted. The ceramic insert of the bezel is also a dark blue, but the sunray dynamic action of the dial really is quite something. But I gotta say, I think it really shines a whole lot more when we get into direct sun. Okay, boys and girls, here we have the Glasshute Original CQ Panorama Date. Clearly called Panorama Date because of those giant numerals showing us the date there. What's really interesting is, I doubt you'll be able to see, maybe if we zoom, there you go. You can see now, despite my shaky hand, the fact that the 0 and the 1 are on separate dials. Unlike the Lange with the large date, where they put the wheels on two different planes, if you look here, these are exactly on the same level. So it yields a very clean look there. It's also extremely legible, and hey, no Cyclops needed on this one for these tired old eyes of mine. Now, as far as spec goes, we're looking at 43 or 43.1 across. Cute little crown guards there. We have a sweeping downturned lug. Lug to lug is in the 50 range. I will put the number right down here. And the thickness, it's approximately 15.2 thick. But bear in mind, a bunch of that is glass, because look at that boxed out crystal, which does some unique vintage looking distortion around the edges of that gorgeous dial. But we do have that boxed out sapphire crystal. And here's the sleeper. Here's the real surprise. Come on, focus, buddies. Get in there. There we go. Here's the real surprise, is this highly decorated movement. That double G for Glasshute is 21 karat gold. Now, this is a highly decorated movement, obviously in-house. The reason that balance wheel is so enormous is because the silicon or magnetic resistant hairspring is equally enormous, This guy here has a 5-day power reserve, which personally I find extremely useful because I can take this watch off for 3, 4, 4.5 days, and it is still running. Now, real quick in terms of the accuracy of that movement, this watch is ridiculously accurate. Glasshute they go ahead and test this every which way, 6 positions. They regulate it to the extreme. And so it meets, I would say, actually better than chronometer spec. You could see it might be able to use a little bit more of an AR coating there. Not much of a complaint though, to be real. This watch is running approximately a 1/4 second fast per day. And I absolutely love that. Nothing more disappointing than a watch which runs slow. A watch which runs a smidgen fast, you can tolerate that, and then every few days just pull the crown for a quick second and then pop it back in. I'm a big fan of Arabics, and this has beautiful, highly loomed Arabic numerals. Stay tuned to the end for the loom shot. Thickness. It's a little on the thick side, I will confess. However, and this is one of the minimal complaints that I have about the watch, not so much the thickness, but why did they box out that bottom sandwich crystal? That to me seems like it adds just a little bit of unnecessary thickness to the watch. What is that? Millimeter and a half? So even though this watch is a little bit thick, much of the thickness, or at least an important portion of the thickness, is glass, bottom and top, and that affects you a lot less than if it were all metal. You can see the vertical brushing on the sides there and the really nice signed crown. So even though this watch is a little on the thick side, and it's not a small watch at 43 millimeters, but I got to tell you guys, it wears much smaller than you would think based on its dimensions. So I can assure you, this is a 7¼ inch wrist. I will give you another wrist shot in a moment. It wears very comfortably indeed. And then in fact, if you put on something like a Submariner or a 40 millimeter watch after this one, this doesn't feel too big. That 40 millimeter watch will end up feeling a bit small. So if you have, like, say this and a Black Bay 58, I assure you your Back Bay 58 is going to wind up feeling a little too small. Okay, the bracelet. Now, a lot of people have problems with polished center links. I have to tell you, I myself do not. That's not one of my problems. The boxed out bottom crystal, yeah, that's one of my minimal complaints. I figure if you're spending this much money on a watch, which meets all the tool watch specifications, I mean, this is ISO certified, etc. But if you're doing that and you're spending the amount of money on the luxury that this watch affords you, then why not add a little bling to it? It says, hey, I'm luxurious. So the polished center links do not bother me here, but the price does. The price is $12,200 MSRP. I believe you can probably get a small discount. I don't think that is an unreasonable thing on this watch. I don't know how much. So you need to talk to your AD or Nick at exquisitetimepieces.com. But I'll be honest with you, I think the price is a little heavy because it puts it right in competition with the Rolex Submariner, which is absolutely an icon. And of course, this much less so. This is a newer introduction, maybe a year old. So I think the price is a little bit of a problem for this watch, but it is worth every penny of the asking price from the ownership experience. But I think the price is a little bit of an impediment to big sales on the Glasshute Original CQ Panorama. Guys, my only other objection, and it's very minor, is this bezel. Now, the bezel looks great, and it operates very, very well. But at this level watch, I want bezel action that gives me a semi, and this one doesn't. If Rolex is the standard, this falls short. Now, don't let me give you the idea that it has backplay or slop or or that it's imprecise, because none of that is true. It is very precise. It is very accurate. It feels very quality driven. Engineers had a big hand in creating this bezel action, and I have no problem with it other than the fact that it's just not sexy. It's stiff. It's extremely positive. It's just not that fun. I'll put it right up to my mic. It probably sounds the littlest bit better than it feels. Lume, the pip is lumed, as is the, all the markers and things that you would expect on the dial. And I can tell you from personal experience, it lasts all night. We are looking at BGW9, I believe. The clasp is milled out, heavy duty, but the clasp also has a beautiful trick. See those ratchets in there, guys? Let me close this bracelet up and show you the beautifully engineered secret trick that we have here. The logo on the clasp, which is really flush, it's just beautifully set there. The quality of the finishing here is just excellent. But it's a button. And so if I push it, I'm going to flip this around so you can see this side will move. It's micro adjustments on the fly. There's the push, and I can go in or out that much, about the equivalent of a half link. So it gives you plenty of adjustability on the fly. But as if that weren't enough, look at these links. Let's get that in focus. The links, hang on, let me play with that a little. The links are really spectacular because each of them is held by a set of screws. So what you have here on each end actually is an end cap with a through bar that goes all the way through. And that means that unlike a Submariner, each and every link is completely removable. So between that and the little trick that the clasp button has, it is extremely easy to dial in an exactly correct fit. At any point in the day, your wrist swells up or reduces itself. Push the button, give it a quick flick, and you can do that while it's still on your wrist. Guys, I think the Panorama CQ is what I would call a watch collector's watch or an enthusiast's watch. It's for somebody who wants pure luxury on the wrist, but you don't need to be flashing around saying, hey, I'm a Rolex. Hey, I'm a Patek Philippe. Hey, I'm an Aldemar Piguet. No, this is it is a much more modestly known brand, although they have been in business for a very long time, and they have entered the luxury dive watch segment really with a bang. This is an incredible watch. But I do think it's for people who have horological confidence. This watch doesn't scream, hey, look at me, I spent a ton of money. Mind you, it looks expensive. And it feels it too. So you'll know where your money went when you're wearing the Panorama CQ. You'll know where your money went. But you are probably somewhat less likely to get knocked over the head for it after leaving that cafe in Rome or Barcelona. So from that standpoint, not only do you need horological confidence, but it might be a little stealthier, wealthier. Well, I promised you a lume shot, and as you can see, the Panorama CQ doesn't disappoint. Okay, guys, I want to thank you for having joined me. Pick up a copy of my book, like this video, subscribe. Let's do it again soon. Goldberg, peace out.
Paint the sky.